They fought wars together, built economies together, and called each other something no two countries ever do.
We're here to make things happen.
But lately, that relationship is bleeding. I'm digging in, and when you look at the countries with the biggest economy, Britain has been hovering around 5th or 6th place for years. But its share of the global economy keeps shrinking, and the countries pulling ahead are growing faster. I'm also hearing and seeing young people leave in record numbers, and a new wave of American tariffs is straining the very trade ties that have held these two countries together for decades.
So Britain just made a massive bet.
We're demonstrating that. We're living that special relationship right now.
But there's a glaring problem here.
Trump and tariffs, which make it harder for the UK economy to sell into America.
We're already deeply integrated, about $1 trillion of investment in each other's economy. The purpose of this is to say that has to just be the beginning.
There's also a generation of young Brits who are not totally satisfied. Some are packing their bags. So I bring it up with its Minister for Small Business and Economic Transformation.
And what they said surprised me.
Marrying that with the US capital is like a match made in heaven.
Here's the full story.
The UK is trying to improve with this event, Greater Together, that's taking place here in Los Angeles. 250 CEOs, scientists, musicians, investors, and members of parliament came to California, a party at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, with red carpets. This is the largest business delegation Britain has ever sent to the United States in history.
We have here the biggest business delegation that the UK has ever sent to another country. Why is that? We understand each other. We have this deep history between the UK and the United States, which makes it easier to do business.
Okay, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. The UK is in trouble.
Figures from the Metropolitan Police show that over 116,500 phones were stolen in the capital.
These store workers at Flannels took on thieves armed with samurai swords.
Watches worth more than £50 million were stolen in London alone last year.
Britain was an undisputed economic superpower, but today it's being overtaken. Analysts at Goldman Sachs project that by 2075, the UK won't even appear in the top 10 largest economies on Earth. In fact, the UK's share of world GDP is projected to fall from about 2.16% to 1.96% by 2030, even as its nominal GDP ticks upward.
Growth is stalling.
The cost of living crisis hollowed out an entire generation's savings. And for the first time in decades, young British people aren't asking how to build a future in the UK. According to a 2024 survey by British Future, nearly 1 in 3 young Britons have seriously considered leaving. A YouGov poll found over 50% of 18 to 34-year-olds feel pessimistic about their financial future at home. And that's why some are leaving. Australia, Canada, Dubai, Singapore, Portugal, anywhere that feels like a bet worth making.
What we need to be better at and what we're working on is making sure the capital is there as those companies scale and grow, because we do have a scale-up gap.
A scale-up gap.
This was admitted openly by a member of the House of Lords. Let me explain. The UK is world-class at starting things. What it hasn't cracked is funding bold ideas all the way to global dominance. And right now, that gap is exactly where ambition goes to die.
And then, just to make things more complicated, Donald Trump came back.
The White House hit almost every country on Earth with sweeping import taxes on April 2nd, 2025. The UK got a baseline 10% tariff on most British goods exported to America. Steel and aluminum were hammered with 25%. Cars, which is the UK's single biggest export to the US, worth around $9 billion, faced a crazy 27.5%, before there was a partial deal that brought that down to 10% for a limited quota of 100,000 vehicles. I mean, it's insane. Industries from pharmaceuticals to creative production started doing the math, and the numbers were ugly. Random stuff like Scotch whiskey, aerospace components, agricultural products, all of it suddenly more expensive to move across the Atlantic.
British entrepreneurs started hedging.
We're seeing tourists reconsidering trips, and the special relationship, you know, that sacred post-war bond first named by Churchill in 1946, yeah, that started to feel fragile. So I had to ask this question: is Trump making this whole thing harder?
I think the way that space works is, again, a long-term cycle. So actually, kind of political vision, it doesn't really matter. What we need is these strong partnerships that agree on the long-term program.
But I pushed harder because the average British person reading the headlines isn't feeling that calm.
Where business is concerned, we are the bridge builders. The politics is all almost irrelevant. We're here to make things happen.
To me, this is almost irrelevant because whether you like it or not, the tariffs speak for themselves, and that's caused real anxiety. But the argument being made here is that the economic DNA between these two countries runs deeper than any single administration. And there is one development that seems to prove it.
You know who got burned this year? Developers who bet their entire workflow on one single AI tool. OpenAI silently swapped out GPT-5 requests for cheaper models without telling anyone. Anthropic changed customer plans based on what was inside their code with no warning and no opt-out. That's exactly why people are switching to building with Zapier's SDK and MCP. This changed how I think about AI entirely. Instead of being locked into one provider, the same agent runs on Claude, Gemini, GPT, whatever. You swap the model in seconds and nothing breaks. Your workflow stays yours. And this is just the first year of AI agents being a real thing. So getting this right now actually matters a lot. Zapier connects 9,000 plus apps, handles real authentication, and has governance built in so your agent can't go rogue and delete a production database. Yes, that actually happened to someone. Your data, your tools, your rules. Link below to try this for free, and now back to the video.
So in September 2025, during Trump's state visit to the UK, something kind of crazy happened. Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA, and more American tech giants signed what became known as the Tech Prosperity Deal. This was a £31 billion commitment. That's about $40 billion to build AI data centers, supercomputers, and research hubs across Britain. Microsoft alone pledged $30 billion, its largest overseas investment in history. NVIDIA committed about £11 billion and Google another £5 billion. For all the noise around tariffs, American capital was still betting on Britain. That bet was kind of a strategy, not just economics, because sitting behind every conversation here and behind every billion-dollar tech commitment is this anxiety about one country.
Let's say China. 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 China.
China's economy is now the second largest on Earth and growing. Its tech sector is moving fast, and I think its space program is arguably the most ambitious on the planet right now.
China's space program is very ambitious, and they were likely to have, humans on the surface of the moon, Chinese astronauts, taikonauts, as they're called, on the surface of the moon, possibly by 2030. And that really has accelerated the US's plans.
The race to the moon is back, and it's not really just about like flags and footprints, because whoever dominates space can also dominate technology, data, and the infrastructure that comes with it. The UK and US both know that staying ahead of China in AI and quantum computing and space, well, that requires working together rather than competing.
So the US and UK have a lot in common.
Our legal systems are built on the same foundations, obviously the shared language, some shared culture, $1 trillion of existing mutual investment. So Britain is here right now with a specific pitch.
It's showing up here to sell itself, to sell more business deals, more relationships. But here's what gets a little bit lost in the doom narrative.
I think the UK is genuinely extraordinary at a lot of things that the world needs right now. I mean, think about it. 4 of the top 10 universities on the planet are British. For a country that makes up less than 1% of the global population, those numbers are staggering. The biotech sector is world leading, the space industry is growing faster than almost anywhere in Europe, and the creative economy, film, music, fashion, advertising, still is one of the most influential forces in global culture.
When I went from India as an immigrant to study in the UK in the 1980s, the UK was looked down upon. It was a sick man of Europe. Now the UK is a respected economy in spite of the temporary turbulence we've had.
Lord Karan Bilamoria has seen Britain at its lowest. See, he arrived as an immigrant, built one of the country's most recognizable brands, and spent 2 decades in the House of Lords.
His argument to me is that the fundamentals are still there.
And here's where I see America re-enter the picture, because what the UK has in innovation, the US has in capital, in money. I asked one founder building a drug manufacturing facility literally in space about all of this.
I'd say, the UK has 4 of the top 10 universities in the world. We might not have as much capital backing us, but there are bold and ambitious ideas that come out of the UK So marrying that with the US capital is like a match made in heaven.
All of that lands if you're a CEO or a hedge fund manager, but what if you're a 24-year-old in Manchester who just watched 3 of their friends move to Dubai?
I brought that up too.
Because the uncomfortable reality underneath all the optimism is this: the UK can attract American investment, but also still lose its own generation.
Capital flows in, but talent flows out.
And the government knows it.
We are trying to give the certainty of a long-term plan through our industrial strategy. We're trying to combine that long-term plan with the kind of urgency that small businesses would expect.
It's kind of a long-term plan and short-term urgency. See, young people don't want a 5-year roadmap. They want to feel it now in their rent, in their salary. Whether building a company in London feels worth it compared to San Francisco or Singapore.
We're one of the top 5 countries in the world for producing unicorns, billion-dollar companies. To this day, come from entrepreneurial startups and scale-ups in the UK. What about AI? Of course, America's fantastic at AI, but so is the UK.
Culture is the biggest export that any country can have. So the UK is small but mighty. Cultural relevancy is one of the most undermined things that you can have in an economy. Almost a social currency, if you will. And that's hard to beat.
So the special relationship is real. Our history between the two countries is very real. The $1 trillion of mutual investment, it's all real, but so is the brain drain, so is the tariffs, and so is this generation of young Brits who don't feel any of this in their daily lives. Over 250 people flew to LA to send a signal, and I was here on the ground, but maybe that's where change starts, with the audacity to show up and make the case that Britain is still worth betting on. Whether the next generation of young Brits agrees, well, that's the real question, and no trade delegation is going to be able to answer that for them.
Thanks for watching this video. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? While you're at it, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next video.